Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
In a world where money is everything, or at least, that's how it is for Emily, one of the most haughty rich girls in the city. Trust was elusive. Her life was measured by the digits in her bank account, her material possessions, and extravagant indulgences. The sunlight of the city poured over her vast mansion, an oasis of wealth amidst a sea of technology and excess. Emily, a 25-year-old heiress with an appearance polished down to the finest detail, stood in front of the large window in her bedroom. Her cold blue eyes, a contrast to her icy heart, surveyed the carefully tended landscape that stretched out before her. She wore a custom-tailored dress, worth far more than the annual salary of most employees, and on her wrist was a limited-edition gemstone bracelet, a symbol of time, which, to her, equated to money. With an aged glass of wine in her hand, because to Emily, even wine had to symbolize status, she watched her maid, Emma, diligently cleaning under the blazing sun, meticulously trimming every rose bush, cleaning every nook and cranny with a devotion that Emily found both strange and contemptible. Emma was everything Emily lacked: humble, hard-working, and genuinely happy with her simple life. And most notably, she was incredibly beautiful, no matter how simply she dressed, something that fueled Emily's envy and quiet disdain. At 30, the maid bore the weight of honest labor, with every drop of sweat on her pretty face reflecting the hardships of her life. Her skilled, professional hands wielded the tools with a finesse that could only come from years of practice and a love for her work. As Emily watched Emma at work, a dark idea began to form in her mind. A sly smile crept onto her face, revealing the malice hidden beneath the facade of a respected heiress. "Why not bring this country bumpkin to my birthday party?" she thought, savoring the words in her head. It would be amusing to turn her into the laughingstock of the night. Emily's birthday party was the biggest event of the year at her family's estate, where the most influential and wealthy children of the elite gathered to celebrate Emily's birthday and indulge their inflated egos. It was a parade of designer outfits, couture dresses, and jewelry that could feed a small nation for years. Emily was always the center of attention at these events, bragging amongst her friends, discussing plans for the next lavish adventure, or showing off her newest acquisitions, whether it be a rising star or a yacht bigger than her rivals. But this year, she thought, would be different. This year, she had an ace up her sleeve, a cruel joke that would elevate her above all the others in the sophisticated hierarchy of malice they all worshipped. Leaving her wine glass on the mahogany vanity, Emily stepped out of her bedroom and headed toward the garden. The heat slapped her face like a reminder of why she preferred the comfort of air conditioning. She approached Emma, who, upon seeing her, wiped the sweat from her brow with a dainty handkerchief. "Good afternoon, Miss Emily," Emma greeted her with a genuine smile that made Emily uncomfortable. How could anyone smile like that when their life was worth so little? "Emma, my dear friend," Emily began, blending her voice with a practiced warmth she had perfected over the years. "I've been watching your work, and I must say, I'm very impressed." Emma's eyes lit up with pride from the compliment, and Emily had to suppress the urge to cringe. "It's so easy to manipulate the simple-minded," she thought. "Thank you, Miss Emily, I always do my best to keep everything to your liking," Emma responded, the pride evident in her tone. Emily nodded, feigning approval. "And that is why, Emma, I want to give you something special, a reward for your hard work and dedication." Emma blinked in surprise. In all her years working for the Emily family, she had never received anything beyond her weekly paycheck and perhaps a small Christmas bonus. "A reward, miss?" she asked, curiosity evident. "Yes," Emily continued, savoring every word like she was sipping a fine wine. "As you know, every year, I have a birthday party. It's the biggest event of the year, where the wealthiest children from the nation's elite gather." Emma nodded, though it was clear she didn't truly know anything about this event. To her, parties and elite socialites were as distant as the moon. "So this year, I want you to come with me," Emily declared, watching the shock and disbelief spread across the maid's face. "Me, to a party?" Emma stammered, clearly overwhelmed by the invitation. "But miss, I don't know anyone there, I wouldn't know what to do or say at a place like that. Emily held back a laugh. The maid's insecurity was exactly what she was looking for. Don't worry, Emma. You'll be my guest of honor. Think of it as an opportunity to see how the other half lives. Besides, I'm sure everyone will be thrilled to meet the one who takes care of me and my home. Emma looked at her dirty, work-worn hands, then at her clothes, stained with the dust and grime of the garden. You're too kind, Miss Emily, but I have nothing appropriate to wear to such an event. Don't worry about that, Emily replied with a casual wave of her hand. I'll make sure you have something fitting for the occasion. So, what do you say, will you accept my invitation? There was a moment of hesitation, a brief flicker of doubt that seemed to tell Emma something wasn't quite right about this sudden generosity, but the emotion and the chance to experience something so far removed from her daily life quickly outweighed any suspicion. It would be an honor, Miss Emily, Emma finally answered, a radiant smile spreading across her wrinkled face. Thank you for thinking of me. The pleasure is mine, Emma, Emily responded, placing a hand on Emma's shoulder to seal the deal. The party is this Saturday, and I'll make sure you get everything you need. As she walked away, leaving Emma caught between excitement and worry, Emily finally allowed the malicious laughter she had been holding in to burst across her face. The game had begun, and she could already taste victory. Back in the cool comfort of her mansion, Emily headed straight for her private bar, needing another drink to celebrate the start of her perfect plan. While pouring herself another glass of wine, her mind raced, playing out every detail of the humiliation she was about to orchestrate. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. After a few seconds, a voice answered on the other end. Chloe, Emily said without bothering with a greeting. I need you to do something for me. I want you to find a dress for my maid. It has to stand out, and the less appropriate, the better. Make sure it's way too big. There was a moment of silence on the other end, as if Chloe, her personal assistant, was trying to make sense of the strange request. Of course, Miss Emily, Chloe finally replied. Do you have any preferences for color or style? Emily smiled to herself. Surprise me, Chloe, just make sure it's something that will have everyone staring for all the wrong reasons. She hung up without waiting for a response. Chloe would understand, she always did, which was why she was invaluable to Emily, capable of carrying out even the most bizarre tasks without asking inconvenient questions. With the plan now in motion, Emily allowed herself to imagine how the gala would unfold. She pictured Emma walking in, awkward and out of place, wearing a ridiculous outfit that would make her stand out like a sore thumb. She could see the confused stares, the stifled laughter, the whispered comments behind champagne glasses, and at the center of it all would be her, Emily, the architect of this cruel comedy. She would be the talk of the town for weeks, maybe even months. Do you remember when Emily brought her maid to the party, they would say, and everyone would laugh, admiring her boldness and cunning cruelty. But there was more at stake than just a mean-spirited prank. For Emily, this was a statement, a reminder to everyone at the party of who she truly was. Not just a wealthy heiress, but someone capable of manipulating, controlling, and crafting a spectacle at will. As she sipped her wine, Emily reflected on the path that had led her here. Born into wealth, her parents had climbed to the top of the business world through shrewdness, determination, and a total lack of ethics. Every step on her parents' way to the top had been marked by decisions that others might call ruthless or immoral, instilling in Emily the belief that cruelty was necessary for success. She recalled the stories her father had told her his first big break at just 26 when he hacked and stole the idea of a promising startup, presenting it as his own and securing the backing of key investors. The original founder, a bright but naive young man, was never able to prove the theft and ended up working in an electronics store, his dreams shattered. Then there was the hostile takeover of a family business that had existed for 3 generations. Emily's father, without a shred of remorse, dismantled the company and sold off its assets, leaving dozens of loyal employees jobless. The father of that family, who had built the business from nothing, had a heart attack upon hearing the news and died shortly after. Each victory, each $1 million accumulated, each headline in the business magazines was another step in building Emily's father's greed, convincing her that the more ruthless you were, the more successful you would be. And now, living in the pinnacle of success her father had built, with more money than she could spend in several lifetimes, what was left for her? The thrill of it all had long since faded. The designer goods, the trips, they had all become dull, almost tasteless, and most of all, she hated the beautiful face of Emma. That's why she needed this. This small act of cruelty, this elaborate joke at the expense of a simple, kind girl like Emma, was a reminder to herself and others that she could still cause a stir, create chaos simply for the fun of it. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, Emily moved back to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. In the garden, Emma continued working, completely unaware of the fate Emily had planned for her. For a brief moment, something like hesitation flickered in Emily's mind. Was all of this really necessary? What would she truly gain from humiliating someone who had always been kind and hardworking? But the feeling vanished as quickly as it had come. I hate people more beautiful than me, and Emily looked ahead with a dangerous face. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity at Emily's mansion. Chloe, true to her reputation for efficiency, had found the perfect outfit for Emma. A garish green dress, 2 sizes too big, with an absurdly puffed-out skirt. It was an outfit straight out of a bad stage performance, completely out of place at a glamorous party of elite socialites. When Chloe presented the dress to Emily, she couldn't help but laugh with satisfaction. "Great job," she said, inspecting the outfit with cruel delight. "This is exactly what I had in mind." The night of the party arrived, a night of light and glamour that seemed to illuminate the entire city. The hotel where the party was being held was a magnificent building perched on cliffs overlooking the ocean, transformed into an oasis of luxury and exclusivity. The entrance was adorned with massive floral arrangements and a red carpet that stretched on endlessly, guarded by security staff in black suits and earpieces, standing still as statues. Luxury cars and limited edition sports cars glided past the Grand Hotel, each one more impressive than the last. It was an endless parade of famous faces, friends of Emily's parents, then the children of those high-powered executives, arriving one after the other. Inside her Rolls-Royce, Emily adjusted the bow on her dress, a waiting smile on her lips. Next to her, Emma sat, clearly uncomfortable and out of place, squeezed into the garish green dress that Chloe had found. "Remember, Emma," Emily said with a fake sweetness. "Tonight, you're my special guest. Don't worry if you don't understand everything that's said, just smile and nod." Emma, her sweaty hands clenched on her knees, nodded nervously. "Thank you again for this opportunity, Miss Emily. I promise I won't let you down." Emily had to suppress a giggle. Emma didn't realize that the only way not to disappoint her was to become the joke of the night. The Rolls-Royce pulled up to the entrance, and a valet quickly opened the door. Emily stepped out first, greeting the photographers with a practiced smile as they immediately began snapping photos. Then, with a dramatic gesture, she extended her hand to help Emma out of the car. The moment Emma stepped out was exactly as Emily had envisioned. For a split second, the flashes paused, as if the photographers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Then, with renewed enthusiasm, the cameras began clicking furiously. Emma, blinded by the flashes and clearly overwhelmed by the attention, stumbled slightly as she exited the car. Emily held her hand, a gesture that might have seemed friendly to those watching, but in reality, it was meant to further expose Emma to the cameras. "Miss Emily, who's your companion?" one of the reporters shouted. Emily smiled, savoring the moment. "This is Emma, my maid. I thought it would be fun to bring someone who really knows how to make things grow, don't you all agree?" Giggles and stifled laughter echoed around them. Emma, not understanding the true meaning behind Emily's words, smiled awkwardly at the cameras. As they walked the red carpet, Emily could feel the curious stares and amused glances following them. The celebrities, socialites, and famous faces of the elite world watched them with a mixture of confusion and obvious entertainment. Once inside the hotel's grand lobby, the contrast between Emma's world and the luxury of the event became even more apparent. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a golden glow over the guests who chatted casually, glasses of champagne in hand. The wealthy heiresses were adorned in designer gowns worth more than Emma's entire house, while the young heirs seemed to be in competition over who wore the most expensive watch or drove the most exclusive car. Emma stopped, clearly overwhelmed by the spectacle in front of her. "Miss Emily," she whispered. "I'm not sure I belong here." Emily suppressed a victorious smile. "Nonsense, Emma. You're my guest. Let me introduce you to some friends." With one hand on Emma's back, Emily guided her toward the table where her parents were seated with a group of high-powered executives near the bar. She recognized James, the CEO of one of the most promising startups, and Frank, a renowned venture capitalist known for his sharp tongue. "Emily," James called out, raising his glass in greeting. "We thought you were going to miss the party. And miss all this fun." "Never," Emily replied before turning to Emma. "Allow me to introduce my companion for the evening. This is Emma, my maid." The silence that followed was almost palpable. "Your maid?" Frank repeated, his tone a mix of disbelief and amusement. "Yes," Emily confirmed, relishing every second. "I thought it would be refreshing to bring someone truly interesting, if you know what I mean." The polite laughter that followed was forced and uncomfortable. Emma, sensing she was the center of a joke she didn't fully understand, smiled nervously. "Tell me, Emma," James said, clearly deciding to play along with Emily's joke. "What do you think of colonizing Mars?" Emma blinked in confusion. I don't know much about that, sir. But I suppose if they're going to colonize Mars, they'll need good maids, right?" Her answer elicited another round of laughter, this time more genuine but no less cruel. Emily could feel the curious stares and amusement directed at them from every corner of the room. Her plan was working perfectly. As the evening progressed, Emily made sure to introduce Emma to as many people as possible, each interaction more awkward than the last. She paraded Emma from group to group, from one conversation to the next, exposing Emma's lack of knowledge about technology, finance, and the culture of the guests. At one point, they encountered Esteban, who looked at Emma with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "So, Emma," Esteban said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "What do you think the future of AI in domestic service will be?" Emma, sweating under the lights and the unwanted attention, stammered. Well, sir, I think if they can cook rice and serve it without spilling any, that'd be something." This response drew more laughter from the group surrounding them. Esteban, though clearly amused by the situation, seemed to consider her answer for a moment before nodding. "You know, that's not a bad idea. Perhaps we should explore automating cooking and serving on Mars." Emily, while finding the situation humorous, felt a slight pang of irritation. She didn't want Emma to receive any recognition, even if it was sarcastic. As the night wore on, the alcohol flowed freely, and inhibitions began to drop, the comments about Emma grew bolder, the laughter no longer hidden. Emily watched with delight as her plan unfolded, as Emma slowly wilted under the weight of the stares and remarks. At one point, Emma excused herself to go to the restroom. Emily watched her go, noticing how her shoulders slumped and her steps faltered. For a brief moment, a flicker of doubt crossed her mind. Had she gone too far? But before she could dwell on it, she was approached by a group of friends eager to chat, and Emily quickly lost herself in the conversation, temporarily forgetting about Emma's fate. Meanwhile, in the luxurious restroom of the hotel, Emma stared at herself in the mirror. The reflection staring back was that of a defeated woman. The bright lights highlighted every tear, every stain on her ill-fitting dress. For the first time that evening, she was alone, without the overpowering presence of Emily or the mocking stares of the other guests. Emma splashed water on her face, trying to regain her composure. What was she doing here? It was clear she didn't belong in this world of wealth and power. Every conversation, every glance, every stifled laugh reminded her that she was an intruder, a walking joke. As she dried her face with a towel softer than anything she had ever touched in her life, Emma considered her options. She could simply leave, catch a taxi, and return to the safety of her small home. But something inside her resisted that idea. She had promised Emily she would attend the party, and Emma was a woman of her word, no matter the circumstances. With a deep sigh, she stood up straight, adjusted the bow tie of her dress as best as she could, and prepared to return to the party. She might not belong here, but at the very least, she could face the rest of the evening with dignity. While Emma struggled with her insecurities in the restroom, Emily was in her element, surrounded by the powerful and famous friends she adored. She commanded the conversations with the skill of a refined heiress, each word, each gesture, each smile calculated for maximum effect. "Emily," a voice called from behind her. "I must say, your choice of a companion tonight is quite interesting." Emily turned to face her father's biggest rival in the tech world, Paul. Paul was everything Emily's parents despised: intelligent, charming, and worst of all, genuinely loved by his employees and colleagues. "Uncle Paul," Emily replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Always a pleasure to see you. What can I say? I enjoy surprising people." Paul looked at her with an unreadable expression. "Is that what you're doing? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're humiliating a girl who clearly doesn't understand why she's here." Emily's smile wavered for a moment. "Don't be dramatic, Uncle Paul. I'm simply showing Emma a world she would never see without me. Isn't that generous?" "Generous," Paul repeated, his voice dripping with skepticism. "Is that what you call it? Because to me, this looks like an exercise in unnecessary cruelty." Before Emily could respond, a murmur spread across the room. All heads turned toward the main entrance to the ballroom, where an impressive figure had just appeared. He was a tall man, around 75 years old, with silver-streaked hair slicked back and a presence that exuded authority. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, not ostentatious, but radiating wealth in every stitch. But the most striking feature was his face. His sharp eyes seemed to see through every lie, and his smile blended kindness and shrewdness in perfect harmony. Emily felt her mouth go dry. She knew who the man was. Everyone in the country knew him. It was Alfred, the legendary investor and philanthropist who had made and broken more fortunes than anyone in the history of tech. He was the one man even the industry's titans bowed to, and he was heading straight toward them. "Paul, my boy," Alfred said in a voice that was friendly but undeniably commanding. "It's good to see you again. How's that clean energy project you told me about coming along?" Paul, clearly delighted to have Alfred's attention, eagerly launched into an enthusiastic explanation of the latest advancements in solar technology. Emily, feeling temporarily sidelined, prepared to interject when she noticed Alfred's gaze had shifted to her. "And you must be Emily," Alfred said, extending his hand. "I've heard a lot about you." Emily shook his hand, trying to hide her nerves behind a confident facade. "Mr. Alfred, it's an honor. I hope everything you've heard is positive." Alfred smiled, but something in his eyes made Emily feel as though she were being scrutinized under a microscope. "Oh, I've heard all sorts of things. You're certainly a remarkable figure, Emily, there's no denying that. Although I must say, your choice of companion tonight is quite notable." At that moment, as if summoned by Alfred's words, Emma stepped out from the crowd. Her face still bore traces of having been freshly washed, and there was a new resolve in her expression, as if she had made a difficult decision. The moment Emily had been waiting for all night had finally arrived. With Emma back in the ballroom and Alfred watching with interest, the stage was set for the grand finale of the cruel joke she had orchestrated. "Mr. Alfred," Emily said with a smile that barely concealed her malice. "Allow me to introduce my special guest for the evening. This is Emma, my maid. The silence that followed was almost absolute. Even the background music seemed to fade, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Alfred looked Emma up and down, his expression unreadable. Emma, for her part, stood as tall as she could in her ill-fitting dress, facing the gaze of the legendary investor who was a friend of Emily's parents, and the amused stares of Emily's young elite friends, with a mix of anxiety and determination. And then, the most unexpected thing happened. Alfred smiled. It wasn't the thin, sarcastic smile Emily had expected, but a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Emma," Alfred said, extending his hand. "It is an honor to finally meet you." Confusion spread across Emily's face like an ink stain. Finally. What did he mean by that? Emma, equally surprised, shook his hand. "The honor is mine, Mr. Alfred," she replied, her voice stronger than it had been earlier in the night. And then, as if signaled by Alfred's words, something extraordinary began to happen. Like a wave spreading across the ocean, the guests began to stand, one by one, then in groups, until the entire room was on its feet. Applause erupted, starting softly but quickly building into a deafening roar. Emily looked around, stunned, unable to comprehend what was happening. "That's her," someone in the crowd shouted. "The unknown angel. I can't believe it. She's a legend." Whispers spread quickly. "The unknown angel. Is she really here? I can't believe it. She's a legend." Emily turned to Emma, her face a mix of confusion and rising horror. "What are they talking about? What is this?" But Emma was no longer looking at Emily. Her eyes were focused on Alfred, who nodded slightly, as if granting permission. Emma took a deep breath and, for the first time that night, stood completely tall. Suddenly, the ill-fitting, garish outfit seemed irrelevant. There was a dignity in her posture, a strength in her gaze that Emily had never seen before. "I think it's time for the truth to be revealed," Emma said, her voice clear and resolute. "Yes, I am the unknown angel." The revelation hit the room like a clap of thunder. Emily felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The unknown angel. The mysterious philanthropist who had donated millions to charities in secret for years, whose identity had been the subject of speculation across every social circle in the country. But you're a maid?" Emily stammered, unable to reconcile the humble image of Emma with the legend of the unknown angel. Emma smiled, a smile full of years of secrets and satisfaction. "Yes, I am a maid, and I'm proud of it," she replied. Then Alfred stepped forward onto the stage, taking hold of the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, a few years ago, Emma was one of the top young entrepreneurs in our country, named among the top 5. However, for reasons unknown, she decided to step away from that life and live simply, doing what she loves." Alfred moved toward Emma, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I've had the privilege of working with Emma on many charitable projects over the years. Her generosity and humility are truly inspiring." Emily felt her world spinning. Her plan, her cruel joke, had crumbled in an instant. Worse still, she had become the laughingstock, the villain of the story. The guests began flocking to Emma, eager to meet the legendary unknown angel. Executives, stars, and philanthropists who had looked at Emma with disdain hours earlier were now competing for her attention. Ms. Marion, a famous actress said, "Your donation saved the arts center in my hometown. I cannot thank you enough." Emma, a renowned tech entrepreneur, added, "The funds you provided for clean energy research are game-changing. It's an honor to finally meet you." As the compliments and gratitude continued, Emily found herself retreating, shrinking away from the spotlight. Her mind raced, trying to process what was happening. How could she have been so wrong? How could she not have known? Emma, for her part, accepted the thanks with grace and humility. "The real honor is in helping," she said repeatedly. Each of us has the power to make a difference, no matter our place in life. At one point, Emma turned to Emily, who had withdrawn into a corner of the room. With steady steps, she approached her once proud employer, now small in the face of the revelation. "Emily," Emma said, her voice gentle but firm. "I suppose you're wondering why I accepted to come tonight, knowing your intentions." Emily, unable to meet Emma's gaze, looked down at the floor. I don't understand. Why work as a maid if you have so much money? Why put up with all of this?" She gestured vaguely to the party and, more broadly, to the way she had treated her. Emma smiled, a smile filled with empathy and sadness. "Because honest work, Emily, no matter what it is, has dignity. Because caring for you and your home, seeing things improve every day, keeps me grounded in what truly matters. And because sometimes, the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places." Emily felt something crack inside her. Her whole life, her entire upbringing, her parents had taught her that money and power were all that mattered. And now, here was Emma, a woman with more wealth than Emily could ever dream of, choosing to live a simple life and quietly do good. I'm sorry," Emily mumbled, the words difficult to get out. "I didn't mean to. Emma placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, a gesture of understanding that Emily felt she didn't deserve. "I know, Emily. And while I can't condone your actions tonight, I think there's a lesson here for all of us." She turned to the crowd around them, her voice rising so that everyone could hear. "Tonight reminds us that we should not judge people by appearances or their profession. True wealth is not measured in dollars but in the positive impact we can make in the lives of others." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. Emily could see the eyes that had once admired her now turning cold or filled with pity. She had fallen from her pedestal, and the fall was steep. Alfred stepped closer, his presence always commanding. "Emily," his voice a mix of disappointment and a sliver of hope. "You made a grave mistake tonight. But as Emma pointed out, there is always room for growth and redemption." Emily nodded, feeling smaller than she ever had before. "We cannot change the past, Emily. But we can plant the seeds for a better future," Alfred continued. "And you don't have to do it alone. There is a community here willing to help, guide, and work with your family on projects that truly matter." Emily looked at him, feeling a mixture of humility and hope that she had never experienced before. I want that. To learn, to help, to do things differently." Emma smiled brightly. "So, what do you say if we start tomorrow morning in your house as I suggested? There's something truly therapeutic about cleaning and seeing your efforts, quite literally." I would love that, Emma. "I think I have a lot to learn from you, from everyone," she added. As they spoke, Emma made her way to the balcony. Her presence, once overlooked or mocked, now radiated quiet authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," Emma said with a gentle smile. "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all," Paul replied, making room for her to join them. Emily, still grappling with her shame, could hardly meet Emma's eyes. "Emma, I don't know what to say." Emma placed her hand on Emily's shoulder again, the same gesture of understanding. "Sometimes, Emily, there's no need to say anything. What matters is what we do from here on out." The group stood in silence for a moment, gazing out at the starry sky. As the gala ended, the guests left with a new perspective. The story of the unknown angel, the millionaire maid who had spent her career quietly helping others, would spread like wildfire in the days to come, inspiring others to reconsider their priorities and the true meaning of success. Emily, who had planned her birthday party with the intention of humiliating her beautiful maid, left with a lesson in humility and a newfound purpose in life. That night, Emily sat down with her parents, and they talked for hours. Her parents, filled with regret for having raised her with such negative values, expressed their remorse. Together, they vowed to change, to strive to help the community, rather than merely satisfy their own selfish ambitions. The next morning, as promised, Emily showed up ready to work alongside Emma. As they cleaned the house, Emily understood that they weren't just caring for a home, they were refreshing their lives and embracing transformation. Along with it came the promise of change for their entire community. The story of the wealthy heiress and her maid would become a legend in the country, a reminder that true wealth is not measured in dollars but in the positive impact we can have on the lives of others.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.